I've never done this before, so please forgive me the quality of the recording and my lack of preparedness. I wanted to record my thoughts here as I've had several discussions with individuals who are seeking unity at this time. Nevertheless, I feel morally compelled to resist, at least in a political sense. I also know this will offend many, and I'm sorry for it. I believe that as a Christian I am to, as much as it depends on me, be at peace with everyone. But this seems to be a rare exception, where I believe peace cannot be achieved through yielding, because doing so would embolden an enemy of peace. Let me begin with a disclosure. I am a white, upper-middle-class, married, Southern evangelical Christian who happens to also be liberal and a father of 3 daughters. I don't think that strange concoction of characteristics uniquely qualifies me in any way to comment on the elections, but I felt it might be of value to some of those who might listen to my ramblings. I hope instead that my statements stand on their own merits and perhaps encourage others to more carefully consider calls to political unity. I've heard repeatedly today that most of those who voted for Trump are not racist, homophobic, misogynist, or whatever phrase you might choose to characterize Trump's campaign, but rather were driven by a message of jobs and prosperity relative to a political process that has seemed to leave them behind in a lopsided recovery. While I haven't seen any data to back that up, let me grant it for a moment. Let's assume that everyone who voted for Trump did so on a message of hope for better jobs and a better economy. I'll grant that they truly felt abandoned by a Washington insider establishment and wanted an outsider to shake things up on their behalf. Imagine for a moment that you landed a great new job. It has fantastic pay, benefits, even an on-site gym. You walked around the new office space to get a lay of the land and meet the people around you. You notice the CEO of the company has wandered in, so you decide to watch him go about his work, hoping to glean some knowledge so to do your own job better. Then something strange happens. Upon entering the office, he glances at the receptionist. He looks at her disapprovingly and asks his executive assistant why they hired such an unattractive woman. He has her fired. He steps into the larger office space and notices an intern in the corner who catches his eye. He grabs her inappropriately and comments on how beautiful she is, and then gives her the receptionist job without examining her qualifications whatsoever. He continues to walk around the office and notices one of his employees is Hispanic. He confronts the employee and demands proof that he is a U.S. citizen and threatens to fire him if he doesn't have it on his person. He turns the corner and sees a young black man waiting for an interview, a man he hasn't seen before, so he demands the company's security guard stop and frisk him. Finally, he heads to the office gym for a quick run, but on the way decides to peek into the women's locker room just to make sure everything's okay. He owns the place, so he thinks he gets to do that kind of thing. Would you continue to work there? Would you take that job? Even as a white male who would suffer none of those offenses, I couldn't countenance working for such a man. I could not put my own personal economic interests in front of my moral abhorrence for such behavior. Each one of those events described are either Trump admissions or Trump promises in the course of his career and campaign. Behaviors for which he has not apologized and proposals he has not retracted. How then could I morally justify yielding to such an individual, even if he has been elected? I am taught to love my neighbor as myself, and so I feel the pain of Trump's victims as if they were my own daughters. Thus, as a father, I would forbid my daughters from interning in the Trump White House, for fear of their mistreatment. How could I begin to justify entrusting our nation to a man with whom I would not trust my own daughters? Now, I do want to be fair. I can imagine a scenario where an individual might feel morally compelled to support Trump. If you were pro-life, if you truly believe that hundreds of thousands of persons are slaughtered yearly, I can imagine that you would feel compelled to do anything and everything to right that wrong, even stomach a man such as Donald Trump, assuming he is genuinely pro-life. If you're pro-life, this argument is not directed towards you. While I may disagree with you, like I have with countless conservatives before, I understand and empathize with your decision and how tough it must have been. But without some powerful, overwhelming moral cause just like that, to counterbalance President-elect Trump's behavior, I must conclude that his supporters are either grossly misinformed, directed by selfish interests, or simply morally bereft. It is this reason, and this reason alone, at this point, that I cannot find harmony with so many of my fellow Americans. I've shared friendships with many conservatives through many election cycles, and most of them expressed reservations for President-elect Trump. Those reservations have quieted my heart. These voices give me the greatest hope. They're the voices of individuals who share my values but believe in different methods to achieve them. These are differences in policies, not in values. But I don't find those values in Trump. Respectfully, and until someone can give me good reason why he or she chose to overlook Trump's litany of aggressions, I must presume that we do not hold in common the most basic of human values, rights, and dignities. And on principle, these I will not compromise. I hope and I pray that some light comes from what feels like a very dark day. God bless. Thanks.